our series of 6 classes that we'll be having for technology education for older adults. My name is Betsy. Did I already say that? Betsy Sandgren, and I coordinate programs here through community education for older adults. So good to see everybody here today. I just wanted to let you know, Matt will be running the class here as he did the first class. Communicating through technology is the class today. But also, Jack is here taping it for the cable TV station. So if you get Channel 10 at your house, you can watch the class there too. Spread the word to friends that might have Channel 10 and weren't able to be here today. They could learn something about technology and about communicating through technology. I also want to let you know that through the Blandin Foundation grant, which these classes are made possible by, we are offering technology labs as well, and I have some technology lab times and locations throughout the community. We're also going to be adding the Lindstrom Senior Center in November, so that'll be another day and another location for the tech labs. And what those will be is like more individual help on your specific device. If you bring your own device, your tablet or your smartphone, you can get some help. It's going really great with the labs. We have had some high schoolers coming and helping, and that has been really, really nice. They're quick and can really teach us how to use our devices and just learn the fast way to do it. Okay, Matt?
All right,
ready?
Good enough. Well, welcome to our community ed class here, Communicating Through Technology, or I'm going to call it today Email 101, because one of the things we want to talk about is email and how that works. So my goal today is to get everybody familiar with email, get a knowledge of how it works, and how to safely and effectively use their email. I'm not going to teach you everything about email, because we'd be here until next week sometime. And even then, we'd be probably still scratching down towards the nitty-gritty of it. But my name is Matt Sonnentag. I'm the owner and founder of the Bitworks. I have, and the goal of my company is to make technology work for our clients, whether they be residential or business or whatever. We do on-site support for businesses out of our offices in Taylors Falls and Forest Lake. And then we do residential and business repair out of those same shops. So I have technicians who work there, and if you've got broken smartphones or computers or tablets or any other kind of techie type of service that you need, we can take care of that in those places. And a lot of stuff we can do remotely now with the robust internet in the area. So I've been in the tech business for about 30 plus years. I graduated from the UW Eau Claire. I'm a native Wisconsinite. And I've got a degree in management information systems. And at that time, part of the management information systems program was actually typing. So, and it was also computer programs and everything else. So records management and filing and all kinds of stuff. So I kind of got in the cusp of all of this technology taking off in business. My first job was with Lockheed Space Operations, and we did all of the ground processing for the space shuttle. And so I was the tech department there. So I got to see a lot of cool stuff. And so it was a really neat place to work. And then came back here after I got a little homesick and worked around the Twin Cities area, and eventually started the Bitworks in 2005. And since then, we've been growing and expanding to a couple of locations, and I have 8 technicians now. We're really trying to find another third location as well. At some point, we're going to hopefully be able to do that. So now today, I'm going to go through email. I'm not going to be able to go through everything, but if you have a specific question, I will do my best to answer it. And if it's something that's going to be a little longer to resolve, I can refer you to a good computer guy. So actually, several good computer guys. So, so with that, our agenda today is we're going to do a little background information on the email technology, how that came to pass, and email, like a lot of this other stuff, was all developed way back when, and so a lot of these things have been around for quite a while. We're going to talk about spam, phishing, and spoofing, some of the nasty things that happen with email. And then we're going to go through how email actually works. So when you send an email, what happens? Secure email. So, because I think many of you probably already use this, or if you haven't used it, you probably will, especially if you're interacting with any kind of a medical facility or that sort of thing. And then I'm going to go over some popular email systems that people use today and kind of how to get started in each of them. And then a little bit on email etiquette. And then I've got some pointers on where to go if you need some additional help on the internet. So, and I can promise you that the folks in the lab will know lots and lots of stuff about email as well, so they'll be able to help you out there. Email, a little history. So all of our internet standards were developed in this country by a department that was part of a funded department called the Advanced Research Projects Agency, or ARPA. It had a sister agency in the Defense Department called DARPA, which was Defense Agency Research Projects. But basically, these were all high-end electrical engineers, universities, companies that got together and developed standards for doing all kinds of things, browsing the internet itself. They designed how that all fit together and documented all of that, and they did that in something called an RFC, which is a request for comment. And they would send these RFCs out for comments from all of these other electrical engineers, you know, the public and business, even across other nations. So, and there were a lot of other countries that participated in this. And this was back in the early 70s when it seemed like we could all get along a lot better in some respects, and people could agree on some of this stuff. So the initial mail that was developed was done in 1977. And the latest revision to that was done in 2008. And so you can see that most of the stuff for doing email was all developed very long time ago, and not a lot has changed. So these folks that developed the standards, the mail standard, well, they were from MIT and Rand Corporation and all those other sorts of places. And the one who specifically wrote the one on mail, his name was Ray Tomlinson. And when they did this, it was a lot simpler time. They weren't really concerned about security. They were just concerned about things getting there and being distributed, and how would you do this. And most of this standard actually was just a paper theory. And so they relied on other people to actually implement this, to design products and those sorts of things that would actually do an email or send a mail message. When we go and talk about email, the person who is actually credited with developing email and a true inter-office system where you're able to put in something in a to and say this is from, and here's an attachment, and send a message across to somebody else in the building, that person's name was Shiva Ayyadurai. And he did this in 1978 at the age of 14. And if anybody's interested, or if the name sounds kind of familiar, he's married to Fran, the nanny, Fran Drescher. So I guess if you invent email, you get to marry a famous actress. So, subsequently, email gets modified a lot, but the standard pretty much remains the same, and that's how everybody tries to talk to each other. Now, a lot of companies came out with their own mail systems early on. Microsoft came out with one, IBM came out with one, been a number of other companies. Initially, if I had a Microsoft mail system in my company, I could only talk to somebody else who had Microsoft Mail in their company. I couldn't talk to somebody who had Lotus Notes or something like that. All of those things came to pass in the early 90s as more and more people demanded that this stuff interact. The first mail as we know it, you know, where you would actually sign on to something on an internet website and get your own mail, was Yahoo Mail. That's 1997, it came out. And AOL, You've Got Mail, 2004. So it doesn't seem like it's that long ago. I can remember all of this stuff too. but all of that stuff kind of came to pass, and so it's at present day, much of the development of mail and email and how that works is all controlled by these larger companies. But keep in mind that there's a standard in the background that says you all must kind of connect to each other in a certain way, and that standard was done way back in the 70s. So the last standard that I know of or can find that was developed was in 2019 when they did some standards on how to filter for spam and things like that. There were some previous spam standards in 2011 that people wrote, and just now those things are actually getting implemented in some of these programs. So it's taking a while. It takes a while from the time they develop all of this to get it out and get it rolled out. And a lot of these companies like Microsoft and IBM, they kind of develop their own standard too internally. So some of the stuff works better in their systems, and some of it, but in many times you can't communicate from one system to another, certain things. It's a little harder to do. That's evolved a lot over the last few years, but it's much better now. So some stats about email. 315 billion emails are sent every day. 50% of those are junk. I did some research on spam, and I think you all remember Monty Python. They had a spam song, and that's kind of how they, I think, came up with the name of this. I do not have it in our presentation today, and you'll probably thank me for that if you go home and listen to it. But of all the countries, Russia is the biggest originator of spam. We see most of it coming out of Russia. Poland sends the least, despite the fact that they're right next door to each other. And the US, about 10% of everything you get is all the spam that's generated is out of the United States. There are lots of things that come with this spam. It's probably the number one topic I hear about if I'm talking to somebody and they know I'm in IT or I run mail servers and those sorts of things. They say, well, so what do you do about spam? Because everybody hates it. And so I hear about that the most, but it's also the number one way that malware and viruses and other nasty stuff get distributed. It's also the number one means of contacting you to get you to participate in some sort of a scam, so that you can become a victim for somebody's scam. So it's very much used in a lot of internet crimes. And there are lots of scams out there. There's a foreign lottery scam. I don't know if you guys have gotten any of these messages. You've won Denmark's lottery from Microsoft or something like that. Some crazy message, and ultimately it results in you having to send some money to them to get the prize or whatever it is. You'll never see again, and you won't see a prize either. Then there's the survey scam where they ask you to take a survey and they actually send you to a place where you get a virus or some sort of malware. We always ask that people, when they're using email, to get some sort of an antivirus system on their computer or phone or whatever. A lot of times some of these result in identity theft and everything else as well. There's the online banking scam where they'll say your password is lost and you need to change it right away, and it looks like it came from your bank. I got one a couple of weeks ago that appeared to be from US Bank, but it was not. And when you click on it, they send you to a website that looks exactly like US Bank's, and they want you to put in your password and username and password, and they capture that. Fortunately, one of the things that I have on my computer is a security system that prevents me from going to those sites, so they block those very quickly. Important to have security there. But a lot of those people will panic and they'll start putting in information, and then they can't get logged in for some reason. their password and username has been recorded, and now you just call that number on the bottom of the screen and you talk to the scammer himself or herself, and then they say they're going to send you some codes. And they send you codes because they're on the real bank site logging into your account, and the passcode is being texted to your phone, and you're just going to give them the passcode. So it's a very popular scam right now, and bank accounts get drained very quickly. So the mystery shopper scam, where you become a mystery shopper and they'll send you all this product and you do a review for us. But first you have to pay to ship it, the initial shipment, and that's $200. And after that you get thousands of dollars in products, and you never see the thousands of dollars of products. And then there's the Nigerian check scam, and this has been around since we had paper mail. And because I remember getting letters like this at one point in time, where they need some help from somebody, some Sir Arthur Van Monson or something like that needs help with their inheritance that's stuck over here in the United States, and would you open their bank account and help us move that money? That scam's been around for a long, long time. So, but a little more formal definition of spam. What is it? We call it's unsolicited communications over the internet. So it's something you didn't ask for, shows up in your inbox. There are lots and lots of times that what you think is spam is what you originally agreed to get in the first place. And sometimes when you agreed to get the mailing from XYZ company, you also checked the box that said, you can sell that to your partners. And all of a sudden you're on a mailing list and you're getting spam from tons and tons and tons of other people. Most of those spam messages will allow you to get off by unsubscribing on the link that's at the bottom of the message. And so you can remove yourself from lots of that. And then one of the things we always ask people to do is check their online accounts, like with their bank account and any kind of shopping accounts, and make sure you're getting from them only what you want to receive from your business partners or business vendors. So there's lots of ways to stop spam. Prevent it in the first place is be careful revealing your email address. Unfortunately, a lot of people sign up for it immediately after getting a computer, because one of the first things the computer system will ask you is, if it's from Hewlett Packard or from Dell or wherever, is can we send you promotional material for other products you might like when you're signing in? When you first turn on that box, after taking it out of the box, can we send you promotional material? And can our partners do that? And if you check all of those boxes, you will certainly get on a mailing list right away. So, and most likely you'll be sold and sold and sold again. So, so be careful revealing that email address. If you ever do get spam, don't respond to it. There are a lot of people that get disgusted with it and they just think, well, I don't think anybody ever reads this anyway, and they send them off a scathing message that just assures them that you're really there and your eyeballs are really seeing their message. The best thing to do is just delete it, and above all, don't click on the links. If you have an email program that says mark this as spam, do it, because your email program will remember that, and it will put those things in your spam folder in the future. And if you are using some of these online services, they will definitely filter that out in the future. So things they will not filter out is if Kohl's is sending, if you've signed up with Kohl's to get Kohl's flyers and they're just sending you too much information, they won't block Kohl's. They won't block Kohl's from everybody. They rely on you to go in and update your preferences. So that's something to remember if you've signed up for something like that, a more reputable vendor. So watch those check boxes if you're signing up for anything. So the other thing we ask people to do is use a third-party spam filter of some sort. Many of these come with an antivirus package. So if you buy something from us, we use an ESET package, which includes a mail filter in it. Norton provides a mail filter. McAfee, they all provide mail filters in their software packages, and those can integrate with your online services as well as Outlook or Thunderbird or whatever you're running on your PC or your Mac. And they're very effective at eliminating viruses. So, and then finally, you know, if you can, avoid free email services. So a lot of people use free email, and it's a big source of scams and as well as spam and everything else. I'm not saying it's bad, but if you want less of it, you should probably upgrade to a purchased system. So, so now you think about unsolicited communications in the mail. And I think that the first thing I thought about, you know, the one thing I used to wait for in the mail all the time when I was a kid was the Sears Christmas catalog. But I'm wondering, would that be considered spam today if it came in your mailbox, in your email box? Sometimes you know, this advertising has just gotten out of hand because it's so easy to do electronically. But I wonder if Sears, the catalog, would be considered spam by some people today. So. One of the biggest problems we have today out with email is something called phishing. And phishing is where people try to get your personal information so that they can take your money or impersonate you or assume your identity, or you know, they're looking for passwords, credit card numbers, they want you to go buy gift cards, that sort of thing. There are hundreds of stories of people who were caught in a phishing net and went ahead and bought Western Union gift cards or transferred money with Western Union or bought iTunes cards, those sorts of things, and sent them off to a scammer. People aren't the only people that do this. Facebook and Google were scammed out of $100 million between 2013 and 2015 by some guy from Lithuania who was sending them invoices, and they were phony, every last one of them, and they paid them. And so one of the things, and it took a while for them to catch it. So that's one of the things that you know, it's easy to get bamboozled by these messages. One of the thing about a phishing message is it's very, very genuine looking. You know, it looks like it might come from your boss or from your child or grandchild, and it's very easy to get sucked into the trap that they're trying to lay. So once they've caught you in a phishing net, usually they'll go on to do something called spear phishing, especially if they can categorize who you are. Now, most companies can't discriminate on age and all these other factors, but the scammers sure do. They pick you out, and I can guarantee that if you are over the age of 60, you are a target. Because I will see 3 or 4 people a week in our shops who've been victimized somehow, either with a tech support scam where somebody's called up and said your computer has a virus on it, and then they've weaseled their way into your computer, and all of a sudden they're trying to get into your bank account. So it's our biggest problem today, and much of it starts with phishing. It goes on beyond that. Once they've identified who you are, they are also able to kind of relate that to what's going on in your social media accounts and everything else. So if you're answering these questions on social media, what was the first car you drove with a stick shift? What kind of potato am I? I mean, there's all kinds of crazy questions, these little quizzes that are out there. 10 best concerts I ever attended. If you are answering those questions, you are putting yourself into a group, and you're identifying yourself to these scammers and spammers. And they have the computing power to go through that information and gather that up and really target you and know exactly what you're up to. Because they can put you, if they know what your favorite movie is, they can pretty much guess your age group. You know, they do a very good job of that. So, the final thing that we see out here, and then spear phishing, for the most part, I see a lot of this with property transactions. So if you're selling property, it's always a time to be extra careful of the emails that you see, if you're selling or buying property. I'll tell you some horror stories later. And then the other people we see targeted all the time are anybody older than 55 or 60. I mean, it seems to be really popular. So one of the first things the other things that we see out there a lot is address spoofing. And so on a normal message, you will see up here, for example, this one comes from me, and this is my email address. All of this information can be faked, and you really never know it. But many times, what you can do is simply highlight this with your mouse, and you'll see an address pop up in here. And you want to make sure that whatever you're seeing here matches what's over here. If it doesn't match, or it's not what you expect, if it's not the person's email address that you are anticipating receiving a message from, know that message might be fake. So I had just one of these just the other day, and it was actually in a real estate transaction where the closing instructions were sent to the buyer and the seller from the title company, and then 10 minutes later they received another message, looked exactly the same, that said, here are some updated wire instructions, where they were trying to get them to wire the funds overseas. And the only reason that was caught is because somebody hovered over this message and saw that came from some fun show fashion.com place rather than the title company. So somebody caught that right away, somebody in the business. And most of the time, the folks there are pretty good at figuring that stuff out. So next, some email stuff you got to know. So I'm going to go over kind of some of the basics, some of the fields that you're going to see in an email package, that sort of thing. Make sure everybody's on the same page. We're going to go through these as fast as we can. If I see an email, somebody come in and complaining that their email is not going through, or they can't get something through, the number one problem is somebody has spelled the name wrong or the domain name wrong. There's always a unique name right here. So my unique name is Matt at my company. And then there's a domain name, thebitworks.com. That's where I'm at. It's always part of an email address. Upper and lowercase does not matter. So Matt at thebitworks.com is the same as Matt at thebitworks.com. All of this stuff gets translated to lowercase when it's out on the internet. So all the mail servers just immediately transmit that to lowercase. So you don't need to do upper and lower and all of that stuff. A lot of people have email aliases or alias addresses, and especially those people who have easily misspelled names. So if your name is Eileen or Matt, or we have a number of other people that Tim, you can get an alias address from most of your email providers. So mine, I have an address of Matthew at the Bitworks and Matt with just one T at the Bitworks. So if you misspell my name, I can always get the email. So some people guess at what they are. But 80% of all the problems I see in email going through are related to addresses. So that's the number one thing to check. If you can't get an email through to somebody, or you're having difficulty with email, check that address and double check it, especially if you have to type it in again. It's very easy to transpose a letter, that sort of thing. So address fields in an email, you'll see these at the top of every message. 2, obviously, is the person or people you want a message to go to. CC are people that carbon copied on a message. So, a lot of times I will, to all of my technical staff, this technician, and the CC is always the HR person. So especially if I'm doing some sort of a policy change or something like that, so that they get a copy of it, and all of the folks know that the HR people have gotten a copy of it. Many times when we will also have a field called BCC, which is blind carbon copy. People in the BCC field, these folks cannot see if you put somebody here. So many times if my HR manager is emailing one of my technicians because we've heard about some behavior we don't like, I will be in the BCC field just so that I am aware of it and can keep it from my my files. They don't always necessarily want me to respond to those messages. That's why they put me in the BCC field. So I have to kind of hold my tongue sometimes if there's something I really wanted to weigh in on, but I just have to address that a different way. And then finally, the subject line. It's a brief subject of what your message is about. Some things to note: bad, blank subjects, no subject at all, or what we call a spammy subject. Now, we used to have realtors that would send messages about XXX, any town lane, all the time. And XXX, early on, when we first started using email, people were immediately putting that into a spam folder because they thought it was pornography. So, because they'd also send out messages with XXX in the subject line. So we had to quickly figure out a way to get around that. But sometimes you got to look at that subject line and say, well, is it something that might offend people, or that they might have gotten a lot of complaints about in the past? So that's something to look at if you're having trouble getting an email through to somebody, is that subject line. That very often will be what the key to getting it through versus not getting it through. So, but message body is the message, of course, you want to send. So you type in there, "Hi, Aunt Sue, I'm doing good. How are you?" All that good stuff. And then an attachment is any kind of a file that we want to send along with our email message. Those are, there are only certain types of files that are allowed to be attachments. You can't send computer programs from one person to another. We used to be able to do that years ago, but now those things are filtered out because that's a simple way to send a virus out. So sometimes those files are filtered out because they can contain viruses. So a lot of email systems will give you an option for getting a delivery receipt and a read receipt. A delivery receipt says that person's email server got the message, and a read receipt means that they opened it. So keep in mind that if you're asking for this on any kind of a message, a lot of times email servers will filter those out. So in spite of the fact that you've asked for one, and actually, so I emailed Betsy and I asked for a read receipt, see if she actually opened my messages, because she just usually deletes them. But even if she does respond and the read receipt is sent, her mail server a lot of times will filter it out because that's an effective way of sending spam. So, and the way that works is those things come back in, there's a certain format of message, and it's very easy to get through a lot of spam filters with it. So a lot of people just filter it out. And then there's a lot of times an importance field. You'll see this little exclamation point or a little down arrow, and then there's nothing. That's kind of getting phased out. I think if anybody wants stuff that's, they always mark stuff that's important that's not important to me. So might be important to them for a sale or something next week. So, but so what happens when I hit send? Magic. It gets there. So this is the path an email takes, and I'll kind of go through this. You are sitting up here on your computer and you're sending an email, and you've composed your message. It's all right. You've got a great subject. Your 2-line. You've got the right address in there, and you hit send. First thing that computer does is it puts it in your outbox, and it sends it off to something called an SMTP or a mail server. And this is the one that you subscribe to. So this might be Yahoo server or Gmail's or your own mail server if you need it. And that server is going to look at it and say, oh, I got a new mail message, and first thing it's going to do is going to look at that address, and it's going to say, is this domain, that little last part, is this on my server? And it's going to look through this other list of domains, and it's going to say, no, it's not there. I don't know where it's at. So then it is going to go off and talk to something called a name server. And there are a lot of these on the internet, and they are designed to talk to each other, and so that everybody can figure out what internet address each name is at. So the first thing it does is it says, okay, where is the bitworks.com? And this server is going to respond to this server and say, it's at this address, this number. And when it does that, this server is going to say, okay, I'm going to send it on over. And so what this server does right here is it sends it out the door and forgets about it. That I'm done. I did my part. That's all I can do. So you really don't know for sure if that message, unless there's something that comes back to this server, it doesn't know either that all it knows is it sent it and it was successful at doing that. The message does get received, and it gets received at my server, which is down here. And it says the bitworks.com, that's me, I've got mail for that person here. And let's look and see, sure enough, Matt, he's in my list. He's got a mailbox, it's full. It'll say, sure enough, Matt, and the mailbox is not full because I control that mailbox and I put as much in there as I want to. So, it's going to accept your mail, and then that mail is going to not go to my computer because I got my computer turned off. It's going to stay on this server. So that's if you were asking for a delivery receipt, you'd get one back at this point. You know, the server would send it back if it didn't filter that message out. But eventually, I'm going to turn on my computer and I'm going to check my email. It's going to go in here, and you'll be one of 350 other messages that I get every morning. And I will eventually read your message and respond to you and say, hi, I'm doing good, all that good stuff. So, and if my mail client down here is configured to respond, if you ask for a read receipt, it will send it back. So now most of these servers on both sides right here, before anything gets into them, will have some sort of a spam filter or virus filter, and in more sophisticated systems, they also have them on the outgoing side as well. So if somebody gets a hold of my email address and my email password, and they log in down here and they say, I'm going to send some mail now. We're emailing the president, secretary of state, and we're just going to threaten this and threaten that and act like we're Matt. What my outbound spam filter will do is it'll say, that is not looking right. And it'll start putting those in a quarantine file and saying, you know, this is spam because there's too much of it coming out. Because usually what goes out are advertisements. That's what people try to send, or some sort of a scam. And those servers recognize those things right away. So my server will filter those when they go outbound. It usually doesn't catch the first 50 or so, though. So usually they're, and then on the opposite edge, we always, at least on our servers, we try to filter out as much spam as possible, and then we also try to scan those messages for viruses, but we don't always catch them. And right now, the more popular thing is to send you a link where you can go get your own virus. So so you're used to going some other website to get something. So all of this process just kind of works on a handoff basis, and nothing is really guaranteed. There's no kind of communication back channel that says, I received a message from you, or anything like that happens in this. That was not built into this standard originally, and so it's not required that people do it. If you're running an all Microsoft mail system or an all IBM mail system, those servers communicate with each other and say, I sent you a message, did you get it? Yes, I got it. And it was this number and that number, very well tracked, and they're guaranteed delivery. But you have to pay for those systems, so, and they're kind of expensive. So a lot of people talk about encrypted mail. Most of these servers out here, when they talk to each other, if they're set up correctly, they will have an encrypted connection between them. So whatever you see flowing back and forth here is usually encrypted so that nobody else can look at it or see it or anything like that. So if somebody's getting in and reading your email, it's usually on this server or on your PC itself so that they're getting that information from. It's not stuff floating around out on the internet. Generally that stuff is, a lot of it is very encrypted and you can't get at it and it doesn't show you a whole lot. But these servers and the mail clients themselves are very vulnerable for, you know, people snooping and watching and getting copies of stuff and all of that stuff. So let's talk about, so this is how a regular email is sent when I send it out in the public cloud. We're going to talk a little bit about secure email now. And so this is what you would use if you were corresponding with your tax agency. So if you're IRS, Department of Revenue, a lot of times your title company, if you're doing a real estate transaction, or at least you should be, your medical facility. So you'd use the secure email platform to do that. And there are a lot of different ways of doing this. Some set up this end-to-end encryption thing, but it means that everybody has to use the same encryption and nobody wants to use the same stuff apparently. So what we're going to talk about today is the most common one, which is what's called a secure portal. So really what that is a website that you log into. So what happens in a secure email situation, you get an email. It says you have a new secure message in this system. And then you will get a link in that email and you will go there and you will sign in and you're able to read the email that the Department of Revenue has sent you and saying, sales tax audit tomorrow. Or, you know, something where you're able to log in and correspond with your doctor or that sort of thing. So you can send messages back and forth. These are typically used in medical or financial transactions of some sort. And if you end up corresponding with a business, especially where there's some sensitive stuff going back and forth, you know, ask, don't you have secure email for this? I mean, bring it up with them because a lot of businesses really need to implement this. There'd be a lot less fraud out there. So what does this thing look like? Well, on a regular email, and this actually is a real estate transaction. So if you're sending regular email, it kind of flows in the circle out here. So all this stuff can happen. You got hackers out here watching this stuff. You got mail theft. I mean, so if your paper mail gets stolen, email phishing attacks, it's probably the biggest #1 thing we see today. And then there's also phone spoofing where you can, even your phone call conversation or text message can be caught and captured in there. So what we use is this secure portal, which is a website, basically, that you log into. I probably have dealt with, I would say, a dozen real estate transactions from a variety of title companies over the last year or so, where people get the fraud message saying, no, don't bring a check, wire your payment, your property transfer information here, and it wires it overseas. Banks are really starting to get wise to that, but they won't always. So, but watch those things, and if you're working with a real estate agent or a title company or whatever, they should be using a secure portal for doing a lot of this closing transaction information. So, I don't know if there are any real estate agents in here. My biggest problem. They all use free email accounts. that's usually where some of this starts right there. So there are lots of different secure email systems out there. Office 365 from Microsoft has a secure portal built into it. It's included. Cisco has one. And so many times, if you're working with any of the state agencies, you'll get something, or any kind of a government agency, it's usually a Cisco email password. There's a lot of other ones: Zixmail, Barracuda, Mimecast, Proofpoint, Hushmail, that sort of thing. And that system kind of works like this. And this is a Microsoft, the Microsoft flow anyway. Oh, back one. Starts off with you sending a message, and you have an option when you send it to encrypt it. And so when you encrypt it, it not only does it make it just a bunch of gobbledygook if you see it on the internet, but you can also specify in there that once you get it, you can't forward it or you can't print it, and you can also say it expires in 10 days. So that encrypted message goes off to your normal mail server. So your normal mail server gets it, and it's in an encrypted format, so it already knows that it's a secure message. And when it does that, it says, okay, I need to forward this on to the secure mail portal, so that's what it does. And then the secure mail portal looks at that message and it says, okay, it's destined to this person. Do I already have an account for them? And if it already has an account, it just says you have a new secure message here. If it doesn't have an account for them, it'll generate a special message with an invitation to create an account. It's good for X number of days or X number of hours, and it sends it out back to the normal mail server, and they get a message, and it says, you've received a new secure message, you need to log in here and create an account. And so that person needs then to open up their internet browser, and they sign into this, and they would create an account for themselves on that mail system. One thing we always we always recommend that, because even these messages get spoofed a lot, if you're not expecting one, be very wary of it. And certainly having a good antivirus system on your computer or a good security system is a must. So, but once this is set up, this secure web browser and this mail portal, you can read the message, you can sometimes print it. But generally you can't forward them. But then if you respond, it'll create the response here and actually send it to me through this encrypted path that's dedicated to me. So, and those messages kind of look like this. They're very easy. This one is actually from Emory University. But it'll say, if you have problems or questions, go to our help page right here. And it'll usually has a phone number there where you can call, but it'll give you some background on the message and why you might have gotten it. So, but a lot of hospitals, a lot of healthcare organizations use this. It's very effective at preventing spam. So you can't, if you're expecting to get your closing instructions through a secure portal and they don't come in the secure portal, then that's the first clue that they're fake. So, so what's out there for email for you guys to use? There are a lot of proprietary platforms out there, and that's Gmail, Outlook, or Hotmail. It's been around for a number of years. iCloud or Apple Mail, Yahoo, AOL. There are some open source webmail clients called, there are a lot of different ones out there. Squirrel Mail, Horde, Roundcube, Sogo, there's just a ton of them. A lot of different vendors use these. So if you have your own website, a lot of times this gets included with your website software. And then there's mail client software that sits on your computer. For example, Microsoft Outlook. There's a program that comes free with Windows 10 called Microsoft Mail. It used to be Outlook Express many years ago that many people are still weeping about that going away. But, and then there's Thunderbird, Apple Mail, there's one called the Bat and Kiwi. There's lots of different mail programs you can put on your computer. Almost all of those will integrate with third-party security systems. So McAfee, Norton, ESET, AVG, all of those security systems integrate with those email packages, and they watch what's coming in, and if it doesn't look right, they will flag it right away and make sure that you don't get infected. Hopefully don't get infected. So how do I get a free email account, or how do I get an email account? First thing I guess you need to decide is whether you want to go to a free service or a purchase service. Like everything else on the internet, free is not free. Free comes with a price. Email, if you're in a free account, your email is monitored. There is some sort of machine reading your email, and it is picking out keywords, and it will display you advertising based on those keywords. So, and if your friend is also on the same email system and you guys suddenly start emailing each other about new shotguns, you'll probably both get ads from Remington or wherever in your feed. So you'll start getting all kinds of stuff based on your email, and your future ads will be stuff that you would typically buy. So if you're an outdoorsman, you'll see nothing but outdoors ads. So
if you in your email account on the incognito screen, would you get those ads?
You probably would, because a lot of that's tied to what's on the server itself.
What was the question?
So the question was, and because Matt needs to repeat these questions, is if you use incognito mode on your browser and log into this account, will you still get the same ads? And you probably will, because that server is what's maintaining that information about you. So, so if you're using Gmail server or Outlook, that server is still the same server and you're still logging into the same account, so they've tied that information to that account. One of the ways to prevent that is to actually use the free account and then put a mail client on your PC, and then that PC is just downloading the information, but it won't, and so then they don't have an opportunity to display ads to you in that on the PC. So you'll get fewer pieces of information. So a lot of free providers out there: Gmail, Outlook, iCloud. There's a lot more. All of them usually offer a paid service. If you use a paid service, there's usually no ads, and you get a lot more privacy.
So what's a paid service usually cost, or what's the range?
So usually they're $5 to $8 a month, depending on what you're looking at. I know you can buy like the Microsoft Outlook mail ad-free package, and I think that's like, I want to say it's $8 a month, but I can't remember off the top of my head. I always caution people, check out my pricing because it's always lower. I value it at that. It's maybe the most it's worth, but generally no advertising on the paid stuff. So you might also get some more features. So if you're going to sign up for any of these services, they all are pretty much the same process. Gmail, and so I'm going to go through 3 of these today and exactly what you do to sign up, or not sign up, but to get you started in each one of these. Google, for a Gmail account, you'll be asked to provide first and last name, come up with a creative password. Hopefully it's not the same password you use everywhere else. So, and then you can sign in and accept their terms and conditions, and they'll say right in there that we're going to display ads in your email, and we're going to read your email and display ads based on the content to you in our mail system. Microsoft is right here. When you create an account, you come up with an account name, and you'll probably come up with 3 or 4 names and end up adding a 1 or a 2 or 1036 or whatever to your name, depending on how unique it is or isn't. And then Apple, if you want to create an Apple email and get an actual iCloud email, you need to do that on an Apple device. So if you're using an Apple phone or a MacBook or whatever, when you first launch those, that creates those accounts out there. You can go ahead and get an Apple ID without that, but you won't get the email service from them. So at least don't believe so.
If you create, say, 2 accounts, say for Google, how do you cancel the other one?
The question is, if you create 2 accounts for Google, how do you cancel one? You can request that the account be canceled. It may take several weeks for it to be eliminated. So there is an option in the settings to cancel an account. So I won't go into that today, but I'll give you the first place to click, and then you can deep dive from there. So, but you can cancel a Google account. Many times those email addresses are not reusable for quite a while afterwards. So Google, or especially Gmail, has lots of trouble with robots creating accounts out there and sending email. They have a lot of trouble with that. So let's go into Gmail. When you create your account with Gmail, we'll have a screen pop up, and all of these are very similar. Gmail, of course, right here. If you click on these three little bars, you'll notice that you have not only access to Gmail, but Google Drive and a lot of other things that they provide for free. So once you have a Google account, you can get a lot of stuff for free from them. If you want to write a message, click on the Compose button. This is your inbox, and you can also star and snooze messages, and it keeps track of your sent and received, and you create your own folders and all of that good stuff as well. Gmail also puts links out on the side to their calendar product, their photos, task manager, and your contacts. So you can use all those contact managers and all that stuff stored online. One of the things you'll notice with Gmail over a while is if you get a few messages in here, eventually you will get messages at the very top that say add next to them. And that's how a lot of times they display the ads to you. So you'll get an ad based on the message. And that's one of the ways that they've managed to overcome my little trick of putting a mail reader on your PC and using your free Gmail account, is you still get those ads downloading every day. And they still wind their way into your inbox. So they will show up right here in the feed with a free email account. Google does try to do some sorting out based on social media and promotional emails, and sometimes they're accurate, sometimes they're not. Sometimes my email to you about whatever is stuck in promotional for some reason, and I don't know why. But Google also gives you access to Hangouts in here, which is an online meeting chat interface. So you can have access to that and join a meeting right away. So if you need to do any of the settings work in Google, it's up here. And then here's your little, you guys call this a waffle, right? In the education business, your little waffle up here. My wife calls it this. So there's those little 9 dots up there. But there's settings are right next to it. And if you wanted to cancel your account, you're going to go down to the settings, and there'll be an option in there to cancel that and terminate that account. If we compose a message in Gmail, it'll pop up another little window for us. And you'll see right here that we have a 2 box. If you want to use the CCC and BCC, you click on that, and then you type those people in, then your subject line and your message is below. If you want to make things highlighted and all of that stuff, there's some formatting options in here. Google is the only one that has 2 separate ways you can attach something. It has this little paper clip to attach something that's on the computer, and then has a little triangle to attach something that's in the Google Cloud. So it's 2 different places to click in that message. And then it also has a scheduler that you can insert pictures and all kinds of other stuff. When you're ready for that thing to send, you just press the little send button down at the bottom. And there's also a way to send a scheduled message here, so you can type something out and it doesn't leave until after you've a certain time. So.
Matt?
Yes.
Could you stand closer to the screen so the viewers that are watching remotely can
Sure.
see the screen and you?
All right, okay. All right, so Gmail's been around for a long time. 2004 is when it was initially launched. And when it came out, it had 1 gigabyte of space, and now it's up to 15. You can receive emails up to 50 megabytes in size. So that is an equivalent of maybe 10 pictures in an email. So this The number one thing I hear about people, I didn't get the attachment. Attachments aren't coming through. I can't send attachments, I can't receive attachments, and usually they're putting too much information in. You can receive up to 10 pictures, you can only send about 4. So, and that's with the Gmail product. And all of these have a little different limitations on them. The way to overcome that limit is to actually use cloud software, and that way you're not actually sending the pictures, but you're sending a link to your pictures on your cloud and sharing that with somebody else. And I'm going to go into that a little bit later and how to establish that. So, Outlook. So if you've signed up with a Microsoft account, you get access to Outlook.com, and we'll go over this a little bit later. But if you press the little waffle up in their corner, you will have access to every user product that Microsoft makes. So you get access to Word and Excel and PowerPoint, but all the online versions, and they're kind of dummied down. You have a few functionality, but for most people that will work just fine.
You don't have to pay for those.
You don't have to pay for any of this. So now if you want a little better version of it, you pay the $8.95 a month or whatever it is, so, or $5. Along with email, you get access to calendar, contacts. There's an attachment manager, and then there's a task manager in there as well. So all of those are there. You have an inbox folder. Mine has one message in it, sent items, and then you can add all kinds of other folders that show up down here in archive. You can create groups of people and groups of folders. It's kind of a neat little system. You can see they're pretty blatant about their advertising. So a lot of their advertising is actually controlled by how your Windows account is set up in the first place. So if you go into the computer, you can have some control over what you see on the computer itself. So 1996, this started as Hotmail. It was acquired in 1997 by Microsoft, and those guys got rich. And then it became Outlook in 2012. It comes with 15 gigabits of storage, so you can put a lot of mail out there. You can you can send an attachment of up to 34 megabits, so that's about 6 pictures. So you can send about 6 pictures in an email with Outlook.com or receive. If you attach cloud files, you can attach almost an unlimited amount of files out there, and we'll kind of talk about how you can share those things later. One interesting thing with Outlook is they do a lot more with spam prevention and reputation management. So if you go in under the account screen, which is right here where it says MS for Matt, Son, and Tag, if you click that and you go in there and you fill in your address, your contact information, your phone number, you agree to use something called multi-factor authentication where they're texting your phone with a code. If you do all of that, they will give you more storage and they will give you higher limits just automatically. So that's something to know because you're more committed then to using their product. So Outlook, when you click new message, you will have everything set up in here. They offer a lot more editing stuff than any other mail provider, so you can indent stuff, add tables, change the color of words, all kinds of good stuff down there. But again, the person you're sending to, there's a CCC and a BCC, a subject, and your message body, whatever you want to attach or do. And if you want to attach anything, it's the little button up here. And when you click on that, it'll ask you if you want to attach it from the PC or you want to send it from the cloud. So it's a lot easier operation than I think Gmail is. So this is typically pretty easy to use. So now let's go on to Apple, their iCloud Mail. They've been around since about the year 2000, actually. They started off with something called Mobile Me, and if you're an Apple aficionado, you probably remember all of this stuff no better than I do. They have a very simple mail system. And a lot of this actually uses Microsoft's and Amazon's resources to be stored in. So they use Microsoft's cloud storage to store all of this. You have an incoming and outgoing message size of 20 megabits. But if you use their iDrive or iCloud drive software, you can send a 5 gigabit message, so with lots of pictures in it. So that's thousands of pictures. So if you send a message there, first, the one thing that's kind of goofy about this system is in order to send a message, you have to know that you need to click on this funny looking little icon up here with a pen and paper. So everybody else just says send or new message or compose or whatever, but Apple's is up here in the corner. And then this will pop up a window. And then this is a new email message going out. Again, to CC subject, type your message. Use a paper clip if you want to attach something. And that will also pop up an option to use the cloud or what's on your computer. Or phone. Some of these icons in here, this is, and I think we'll make this presentation available to you. We'll get that out. We won't go through these right now, but you can go ahead and look through those later. Attaching files, you can do this with just about any email platform. So right now, if you just sign up and use what's on your PC, you can send about 20 megabits. And keep in mind that setting is on both ends. So you might be able to send 50, but the other end can only receive 20. You're only going to get through 20. So one of the better ways to do that is to use these Google Drive, iCloud Drive to store all your photos. Google's is pretty nice. You click on the little icon down here in the bottom. When you do that, it'll say insert files using Google Drive. And you have a picture here from my deer hunting tree stand, a cartoon about ice cubes and when they fall in your face, and Opus. This is kind of nice because this is what's in the cloud, but if I want to upload something new, I can just click over and upload and pull it right up from my PC. It's really a slick deal. Some of the other ones are a little clunkier. But I can select as many places as I want by holding down the Shift key and select as many of these as I want to. And when I add them back into the message, they show up here. But when the person clicks on them, they're actually looking at my drive. We're not transmitting this photo anywhere. So they're looking at my drive. They have the option to download it if they want to a copy on their computer. Or this will stay active as long as that message is around. So uploading is real easy. One, you can click in there in the middle of adding an email and just go to this upload option, and it'll say select files from your device, and you can pull pictures up from your phone or from your computer. And once you pull them up, they're in the cloud, and then you just attach them right to the message. So it's real easy to do. OneDrive is a little bit easier, or is a little different. If you want to attach a file, from there, I usually start by attaching the files. And to do that, you click on the little waffle thing up in the corner. And here you'll see that you have access to, in the free version, you have access to Outlook, Microsoft Teams, Excel, Word, PowerPoint, OneNote, a to-do thing, some family safety stuff, calendar, and Skype. The one we're interested in is OneDrive. So we click on that. And when we click that, we will get a OneDrive screen, which shows your files in the OneDrive cloud, your personal vault, and you can divide those up into stuff that's shared. You can actually click on this and see who you've shared stuff with. So if you've shared a picture in the past with them, you'll know that it's shared with somebody. So you have some options in there. If you want to install this on your computer and be able to just drop and drag with your file manager, there's a little option down here to get the OneDrive apps on your computer itself. So you don't have to use the cloud software. Or you can continue to use the web stuff and just do the upload option right here. But once you clicked on files, it's the same way. You just highlight the ones you want to send over and boom, away they go. So, in the Outlook program itself, you can just click on attach and you'll see a browse this computer or browse cloud locations or upload and share. So you can upload directly to your cloud and share them right off the PC. So, and those are not transmitted in the message, so you're not sending this huge glob of information over the internet. And you also maintain some access to your own files. So, and so that's what that looks like when we go through there. We just click on the messages or the files, and you'll see that get little check marks in them, and those are being shared. And I can attach as a copy as well if I do want to send them out of the cloud, but usually I just click on the OneDrive link. iCloud Mail, same way. It has a little, if you click on the iCloud Mail, you'll see access to all of their products. So you get access there to their photos, pages, numbers, which are Excel and Word in the Apple world. So you click on the iCloud Drive, and then I created a folder out here. You can click on that, or you can share the whole folder, which is really kind of nice. But in here, I just clicked on my little Microsoft Windows image, and then I go over here, and click on my share to email option, and it'll ask what I want to share it as, and then we click on share. So they're all pretty straightforward to go through. If you want to email somebody and test this out, email me. I'll email you back and forth. And my email's in there, so you can go ahead and take a look at that. A little bit on email etiquette before we go. Don't use all caps. People like that, don't like that. They think you're yelling at them. That's not to say that if you don't want to emphasize something in an email, typing that one word in all caps just puts a little emphasis on it. So I'd like to do that at times. Do include a signature. People like to know where things are coming from, especially if you've got a new email address or a free email. Sometimes those things don't come through as well. Don't use reply all. If I could get my Rotary group to not do this, it would be just wonderful, because every week I know who's coming to the meeting because they all RSVP on Monday morning to reply all. So I don't know how they do that, but just make sure that if you just want to send the response to the person who's asked the question, that you click on respond or just reply and not reply all. But many times when you have multiple people in the two-line, reply all will be the first option that you get. So you have to go down and select the second one. Do write a good subject line. Tell people, get people interested in opening that thing. So opening that email. If you CC somebody, mention that in your email. I think that's courtesy, especially if it's personal communications. I really didn't like the way you treated me. I've copied my lawyer on this. So don't use acronyms because you never really know, where emails will be forwarded and if those people will understand what you're talking about. And do take a close look at your spelling and grammar before sending. That's many times we see people that misconstrue emails because you just really have to read it from the receiver's perspective. And if you set the wrong tone, it can be really misinterpreted. So, and we see that today on social media is the same way and stuff like that. Lots of stuff gets misinterpreted right away. You really don't know what a person's thinking behind all that stuff. So if you want to learn more, I have links in the back of the presentation. How to use iCloud, how to use iCloud Mail, how to use Gmail, and how to use Outlook.com. They're all about 20 to 30 minute presentations. They do a little more thorough job of attaching a message. You actually can walk through and follow through with them and send emails out. So those are all great links to watch. All you little YouTube videos, so you can just kind of follow along with those. So, but that's it for us today. So
that's. Take a couple of questions.
We have plenty of time for a couple of questions, I think, so I don't know where we're at. Well, yeah, it was kind of long today, wasn't it? But, yes? What is malware? So malware is designed, is a program or that you would get that changes the function of your computer. So for example, when you open your internet browser and you're expecting to go to a window, type in an address and go someplace like google.com, if you open the window and all of a sudden 3 other windows pop open and you're getting ads for this and that, that's malware that's on the computer that's done that. It's designed to change the operation, and usually it's designed to give you, and sometimes it can intercept keystrokes so they know what you're typing. They'll periodically get a shot of what's on your screen so they can see what that is. They can also infect your computer with other more serious stuff and even take it over and use it for attacking other people. So dangerous stuff. So and there's all kinds of these little malwares, ransomwares, and everything else. And almost all of them use email as a means of attacking. So other questions? Any other? Yes, sir.
Computers, systems that, like LifeLock, Norton, do they actually protect you or not?
So the question is, computer systems like LifeLock and Norton, do they actually protect you? And yes, they do. They do help considerably. LifeLock is a little different than Norton. LifeLock's like a identity theft prevention. And I'd highly recommend investing in that, just because you know what's going on with your identity out there. But it won't protect your computer, but it will help you should something happen. Norton does a fairly good job of protecting, as does McAfee and AVG and ESET and some of these other programs. You want to look for a program that's not just an antivirus. You want something that's going to monitor where you're going on the internet. So if you accidentally click on one of these malware links, the software package, the security package on my computer blocks me from going there. So I get a big red message on the screen that says, this has been blocked by your security package because it's a dangerous site. And so that's the sort of thing you want to have there, because most of the time that's how you're going to get something or get infected. So, but they do a very effective job of it. So, yes?
If you get notification that your contact information is on the dark web, how important is that?
Okay, so the question is, if you get notified that your contact information is on the dark web, how important is that? Well, one, you probably won't get it off the dark web. You know, it's concerning that a lot of these companies have been hacked in the past. Facebook has been hacked and everything else. And your information is out there getting sold and exchanged, not only on the dark web, but on the public web. I mean, it's really not a lot of difference to it. The one thing that you need to be aware of is if you can figure out where that that stuff originated from, is to make sure that you're not using the same password everywhere. Because the first thing that will happen is they will start using that password to attack different banks. So they'll use your email address and password to attack different banks. And then eventually they might get one, they know it's your bank. They'll figure out it's your bank and they'll understand what that is. But then they need to work a little more, but they eventually will be able to potentially compromise your account. So, especially if they know a known password. And there are huge lists of these known passwords out there that they just try against different people's information. So, over and over again. So
basically, person should more than just the password get that two types of where they text you also.
Yeah. So the question is, so we should have really more protection than one password. You should have 2 types of authentication. And yes, that's what we call multi-factor or 2-factor authentication. A lot of ways that works, and we're maybe do it we'll do a little section in our next class because it's real easy to do. There's a little thing I put on my phone. It's called Authenticator, and it pops up this little series of numbers. And so when I sign into my email account, it asks me for that number that's on my phone. So I pull up my phone and I type in the number and it lets me in.
Is that just an app then?
That's just an app on the phone. And then most of the people, and there's one put out by Google and another one by Microsoft. They're both very good. And it provides a really good means of preventing unauthorized access. So the other option is to have them text you a message. But I talked to you about that a little earlier with the banking example, if we remember in the email. They send you to a website that looks like your bank, and you give them your username and your password so they know what that is. And then you get them on the phone, and then they say, well, we're texting you a code. Well, they're trying to log into the real site, and the code you're getting is from your bank, and you're just going to give them the code and let them into your account. So we want to make sure that sometimes the text thing is something that is not easy to overcome. And nobody needs your authenticator information to log into your bank account. I mean, the bank should be able to see everything they should be able to see in there. So back to that subject of dark web, there is a website out there, and we may talk a little bit about this next time. It's called Have I Been Pwned or Pawned? P-W-N-E-D. And what you do out there is you put your email address in, and it will tell you if your email and password has been compromised and which attacks it was from. So you know what password and user ID combinations have been compromised. So it's a very effective service. So
How do you spell that?
I'm trying to spell that in my head now too, and it's Have I Been Pawned? Is basically, so if you go out to Google and search for Have I Been Pawned, it will bring up that website, and you can sign up in there, and then in the future, if there are any attacks or breaches from these companies, you'll immediately be notified, and then you can change your passwords. Good password managers will also monitor that information, and they will notify you, you need to change your password at your bank because they were compromised in an attack. And so very good little programs, usually very inexpensive to have. So, and the Have I Been Pawned one is free. So it's very...
So that's not an app, you just go to Google it?
Yeah, just go Google that and you can sign up on that website. And it's really interesting, and it's all this stuff that, and there's just huge lists of passwords and stuff like that. You can also type in your passwords out there and it'll tell you how strong it is and how long it takes it to crack it. So it's really kind of a cool thing if you're trying to amuse yourself for an afternoon. But but any other questions?
Are you going to talk about passwords sometime?
Yeah, maybe we should do that the next class. I don't know, passwords and protection and that sort of stuff. So.
We just have one more class, right?
Well, we have there's one more scheduled, and then we're trying to schedule 3 more, I think,
Yeah,
right?
then we're gonna do another 3 in probably February, March, and April. Yeah,
Is starting over, or would it be continuation?
like adding on.
Yeah,
Okay.
And
it'll do different
that's
subjects.
why it's really important to fill out one of these forms with the questions that you want, because as we talked about last time, these classes and the tech labs are participant-led. What do you need to know? What do you want to learn? It's all about, the participants, whoever shows up at the labs and the classes, we want to teach what you need to know. So, and then, of course, other things that Matt knows we need to know.
So yeah, I think it's important to do the password would be a very good one to do. There's a lot of the classes just on security and being safety conscious on the internet.
Yeah,
So.
and that's something too with the labs. We're going to try to have, each lab will have a topic, and actually passwords is one of our topics, and none of us are really experts at it. Matt knows a lot more about passwords, but we did have it be our topic at the last Tech Lab. And so we learned a little bit from each other, actually, like how do you keep your passwords, or how do you keep them safe? So that can also be covered in the Tech Labs. So if you want to join one of the Tech Labs, these are the dates and the location. So I'm going to pass that around. You can grab one.
So are those themed then for each one, or?
Well, we're going to have a topic, but we're not sure how that's going to go yet. We're still kind of forming this whole technology lab. This is the sustainable part of the grant that's going on. So this is the part that we want to go on forever. You know, these tech labs.
Great.
So, yeah. So I know there was a lot. Thanks, Matt.
Well,
There's a lot.
There's a lot just in email, so we were going to try to
Yes.
talk about texting too, but you
Yeah.
know, it's just too much.
Well,
So-
I will send out the PowerPoint,
Mhm.
so I know you didn't get to the icons, and
Yeah.
that will be on the PowerPoint. So I'll send that to your email when you've registered with Community Ed. So I have your email. It won't be a spam one. It'll be Matt's PowerPoint. But also, there was a couple of things that Matt mentioned, like have a signature on your email. Well, those are the kinds of things that we can cover. How do you get a signature on your email?
Oh, yeah, we can do that.
You
Yeah,
know,
we
we
can do that
can
in
cover
class, yeah.
that in the labs. So remember, you can come to the labs and learn a little bit. That could be one of our topics for one of the lab days. Yeah.
Is the lab hands-on?
Yeah, so what's been happening so far is we've been having volunteers and myself and high school students come to the labs and help us. So usually the people that come to the labs bring their own device, so their smartphone or their tablet or their laptop, and they come in with some questions like, I need help. I don't know how to clear out my trash, or whatever. So
which
they're
one of these are going to be labs?
they're all labs.
These are all labs?
Yep,
Wellness? Or just the location? Okay.
that is the location. Yeah. So even like today, the class today was being live streamed over to Taylor's Falls and also to the Empower Wellness Center. So we were here today, but there were students or participants at the two other locations.
Where's the Empower at?
That's next to Parmley, the Parmley Lakeside Parmley Apartments. Am I
Okay.
saying that right? I think so. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So those are the times that somebody will be there. We're also adding this Lindstrom Senior Living, the new senior living community by Rose Hill Resort. That will be another tech lab location. So
Wow.
that will be really cool because I just toured it the other day. It's real nice.
Okay.
So, and they have a great library area. Yeah.
So those
So-
people couldn't ask questions over here then today, huh? Like
No.
you,
Right.
this is the.
Their volunteer could help them, no. We
Yeah.
have
Okay.
a couple of volunteers, one at Taylor's Falls and one at Empower.
Okay.
And if they had questions, their volunteer might be able to help them.
Yeah, might be able to help or text a message to you or
Yes,
somebody
yes.
to ask the question.
Yeah, so I was
So-
communicating via text while in the back, making sure that they were online and they were getting it, so.
Great. Thank
All
you.
right. So, thanks for coming. We went a little over time, but not too
I'm
bad.
sorry.
Yeah. So thanks, everybody, and hopefully we'll see you at the next class. Remember, you should register for the classes.
When is that class?
Oh, you have to register for the
Register,
labs?
not for the labs, register for the classes, but you don't have to register for the labs. Those are drop-in.
When is the next class?